By request, I will be reviewing Star Command. Star Command is a Starship Command simulator game available on iOS. This game has a lot of hype behind it, with several Kickstarter campaigns and several opinions on either side about fights that have happened online. Let's take a look at the game and see how it fares after we get past all the hype and all the conflict surrounding it. If you are a BGG reader, I want to preface this by saying I'm not sure Star Command really is a great fit for what we usually cover, which is why I avoided reviewing it, but by request, here is the review anyway. In Star Command, you take on the role of a starship captain. You also get to customize and name your own ship. When you start the game, you only have this basic fighter, but you will have a larger ship as you beat the game the first time. The customization of your captain is great, however, there are a limited number of sprites, so you may see a crew member that looks identical to your captain later on. There are basically three main mechanics in the game. The first are these animated story segments. You don't really explore the galaxy, but when you go to a new planet in the linear story, you will be treated to an animated cutscene that includes some pixel art and also with some realistic-looking backgrounds. The other main task that you have on your ship is to build new rooms that have different functions like shield generators or weapons, and then you can upgrade these rooms as you receive tokens. Tokens are a resource that are earned as you complete missions. What was surprising to me is that the room choices, as well as the upgrades to them, were actually extremely limited. There are not as many options here as I would have thought, though there are some definitely interesting options, and each weapon comes with its own unique minigame, which we'll check out in a minute. Apart from this, you also can spend tokens to hire crew members, which you'll need to man the different stations on your ship and help fight off invaders. Combat is the real meat and bones of the game. Again, if you were expecting a simulation game or more of an exploration game, this is really not what it is. This is strictly a combat simulator. Every interaction you have with an alien race will end in war, which is very anti-Star Trek, I would say, but in terms of this game, that is just how the galaxy works. In the game, there are two types of combat. The first is the ship-to-ship combat, and this is done through using your weapon systems as well as your dodge and shield generators. Your dodge generator can help you dodge incoming attacks, while your weapons can deal a blow to the enemy. Each weapon has a pretty complicated process to fire it. First, you have to wait for it to charge, you have to generate a token, which also takes about 2 minutes, and then you have to play a minigame such as this one. If all of this is successful, you can deal some major damage to the enemy. Like in this case, I did a very successful minigame, and here we go to watch the enemy ship be destroyed. Battles can be hectic, but because you don't really have any control of targeting or really how you affect the enemy ship other than just firing your weapons, it really becomes just a game of managing your people and quickly pressing refresh on the different stations. The other main type of combat is boarding combat. In this situation, enemy invaders will invade your ship, and you will have to use your crew members to fend them off. You have security crew members as well as healing crew members that can keep your security crew members alive. The mobs here are not kind of a one-to-one basis, but usually your crew will be facing off 10 or so enemies at the same time. The enemies generally are pretty unintelligent in their movements, but more moving like a mob-type fashion, either moving directly at your defenders or going after the people in your different stations, so you may have to move them to keep them safe. Basics of Star Command. As you play through the game the first time, you will unlock new ships that allow you to have more crew members and different station setups, which can be useful if you wish to replay the game and try it at maybe a harder difficulty setting. The game is already fairly difficult as it is, and you will fail often on the missions. This, combined with the tedious combat systems with the different weapons, can make the game a little cumbersome at times and feel more boring than actual fun and gameplay. Another problem I have with the game is that I never really feel grounded in the game. Meaning, in FTL, for example, I knew that if they were boarding me with their crew, that they were getting limited on their side because they were using up some of their resource to invade me rather than to man stations on their ship. However, in this game, they send wave after wave of crew members to my ship, where I only have maybe 11 total, which seems obviously not just a little unfair, but just a little ungrounded in the way the mechanics of the universe work. I also find the combat very limited decision-wise. There is not a lot of choice to make, just in terms of when you can fire weapons and when you dodge. Really, the key choice here is when you dodge and where you move your crew members to encounter boarding parties. I have spoken a lot about what Star Command is not, and it certainly is not a great fit for the strategy gamer. It is not a true space sim as you would experience in FTL or other games like that. However, it is more of a combat sim that uses more mini-game type dino dash mechanics rather than some deep strategic core. Taken at what it is, Star Command is an interesting game that, yes, can become tedious, but it's definitely fun for the first playthrough and definitely the second as it gives you a lot more options. This is not going to be a stalwart member of your collection for a long time or something you'll continue to play over and over like FTL, but I think it will be something that you'll use once to experience and then perhaps move on to another title. It is sad after all the hype that Star Command turns out to be a fairly average casual iOS title, but the real standout here, as it has always been I believe, is the pixel art of the game, which is quite excellent and definitely one of the reasons to check out this game, even if you don't feel that the gameplay will interest you. So if you think this is worth checking out, go ahead and give it a look.